I do know that there are at least one or two Congress members that I would expect Henry McMaster, our governor, to consider. I would imagine that there is going to be a sprint because, as you remember, Kristen, Lindsey was up for re-election right now. So next month, there will be likely an open primary to replace the Republican nominee. And by the end of the month, I would assume that we will be well on our way to electing someone as his successor. Hard to swallow that life moves so quickly and the party doesn't stop ever.
That's South Carolina Senator Tim Scott acknowledging the stark political reality. As shocking and tragic as his colleague Lindsey Graham's sudden death is, it does affect the balance of power in a narrowly controlled Senate. State law calls for a special fast-track primary for a new nominee to face Democrat Annie Andrews in November. Let's bring in Mark Bednar, former communications director for former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. So this seat is not going to sit empty until November, Mark, correct?
Yeah, and John, thanks for having me. I think it's going to be really critical. We're going to see we're going to have a front row seat where President Trump and Governor McMaster, they're going to need to coordinate together who's the best person to appoint to that seat immediately. But then also, do you want to balance that? Do you want somebody who's just a caretaker for right now? Or do you want somebody who can also simultaneously run to also fill that spot in November, coming up in these next few weeks here?
And it was, as we were just talking about with Bret Baier, Nancy Mace, the congresswoman from South Carolina, is considering running, but she has crossed swords with President Trump. And these days in the Republican Party, that's not necessarily a way to win an election or win a seat.
Yeah, John, you're right. President Trump didn't endorse her for good reason. She came up in 5th in the governor race as a result. And even this morning, with Senator Graham having passed less than 12 hours earlier, she's putting out memes about her running. So she basically demonstrated to the entire country how seriously everyone else should take her by issuing a meme like that. But there are a lot of people within the Republican Party in South Carolina. Russell Fry, who's been mentioned. He's a great member of Congress. He can make a move here. Of course, the lieutenant governor, who is an ally of President Trump, she would be a great choice as well. So there's really a good stable here for the president and the governor to really come to a conclusion here on who to coalesce around. And the sooner that we come to these decisions as a party, the more easily they can go up against the Democrat. And we can't forget, Senator Graham in 2020, he had $132 million spent against him by Jamie Harrison. So even though we view South Carolina as a red state, and it is, this is definitely a place where Democrats, should they so choose, they could spend a lot of money and cause Republicans to spend a lot of money too. So the sooner that Republicans and President Trump can coalesce around a candidate here, the better off the party is going to be.
We have a list of the potential candidates. Two of them you've already mentioned, the Lieutenant Governor Pamela Yvette, as well as Nancy Mace. Also Representative Russell Fry and Mark Lynch. Are you picking favorites from among these four?
Yeah, well, I already mentioned Congressman Fry. Like, he's a great member. I think he would be a really good opportunity here to represent South Carolina as a state. Also, Lieutenant Governor. I think those two are the highest two in the running right now. The fact that this is South Carolina, it is a red state, that there is a plethora, a bounty of Republicans to choose from, that is a good thing. That's good for the state. That's good for filling the seat more quickly. And also, too, John, it's important to fill this seat if you're the governor, because you want to deliver that extra vote to the Senate so that President Trump's agenda between now and the midterms, you can actually have an extra vote, because we know Democrats are not going to vote for anything here on out. Like, we might even face another government shutdown as a result. So it's going to be really important that Republicans have every single vote that they can in the Senate chamber at any given time. And even Joe Wilson recognized this with this slim majority in the House, that he's going to hang back because that majority is so small. So it's going to be really important. Let's get this done quick. Russell Fry, he'd be great. The Lieutenant Governor, I think she'd be great, too. I think we're going to have to wait and see where the president and the governor are going to end up on this.
Yeah, Congressman Joe Wilson says he will remain in the House, won't run for the seat. Are you at all concerned the Democrats could pick up this Senate seat?
Well, if there's any sort of shenanigans regarding, if we get the wrong candidate in there, obviously Congresswoman Mace, if she does more memes announcing her candidacy and for whatever miraculous reason she became the nominee, that could be damaging. That would cost the state and the Republican Party a lot of money. But no, I think that we're going to be able to get a good nominee going forward, and that we can solidify that seat and then make sure that we can play offense in other seats, that we can put money in Ohio, Alaska, Iowa, make sure to expand in Maine, and maybe go on offense a little bit in Georgia. So the map is still in favors a Republican majority in the Senate. Of course, there's a lot of activity to be considered in the House as well. But no, I think this is a seat that's going to stay solidly Republican, but Democrats might make us work for it and spend some money here.
All right, Mark Bednar. Mark, thanks.
Thanks, John.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.